Recorded live from the heart of the Bakken, it's the Williston Works podcast.
Welcome to the Williston Works podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Williston Works brings you in-depth discussions with the entrepreneurs, small business owners, and investors who are getting it done in Western North Dakota. I'm your host, Shawn Wenko, Executive Director of the Williston Economic Development Office, and it is a treat to have our guests here today to talk a little bit about what they do. But we have James and Summer Wilda with us, and we also have Madeline Richens with us. We're talking co-owners here of Dirty Dough. We're going to get into a bit of background and where you came from and why you're here today. But let's talk about, we've seen the logo around town. You've got it sitting here on the table. What is Dirty Dough?
Dirty Dough is a gourmet, stuffed, delicious cookie meant to be a little doughy in the middle, a bit of an experience, a new experience for everyone. So you've seen cookies around town or in other places that have different kinds of toppings, different kinds of experiences. This has something about the inside, which also speaks to what the company is and part of their other missions, which is caring about the fillings of everyone involved and developing and recognizing that people are individual. Cookies don't have to be perfect that come from our store. Everyone is unique and different.
Well, in Dirty Dough is a franchise, if I'm correct.
At least.
It's out there.
Yep.
And so that gets into, there's got to be a heck of a story here, because one thing you see with economic development, a lot of the franchises that do come to Williston, they're usually on kind of the later stages of franchise development. So Williston seems, sometimes it tends to see things a little bit down the road after the other cities have seen them come in. Dirty Dough is the first that it's kind of like right here it is. So it's got to be a heck of a story with you guys. Where did you come from? How did you end up in Williston?
I grew up in central Montana. Summer's from San Diego. We had several opportunities because of oil field to come to Williston in the past, and because of the economic development, we capitalized on one of those a few years ago and brought our family here. And for us, we didn't really have a 5 or 10 year plan. It came to us deciding we're going to go to Williston, and that's going to be home, and that's what we're making it, right? As far as Dirty Dough goes, a lot of people refer to Williston as a service desert. We're so remote, and it is hard. Like you said, even franchises take a long time to get here, right? And with an oil field background, I see that as well. Finding parts and service, the companies that are here do a great job, but I think everybody shares that struggle, right? And so bringing something fun here on the cusp right away rather than waiting for it to catch up, it's just been a lot of fun to do that, and we have faith in the community. Just seeing the growth that we've watched the last 10 or 12 years before we even considered coming here, for us it seemed like a no-brainer to bring something like this here.
Sure. And in some of yourself, kind of background a bit of.
So I've worked in social media online. I've coached people on how to bring their businesses, brick and mortar businesses, online to help them market and develop strategies for staying successful even through uncertain times that we've experienced in the last several years. Branching into a brick and mortar myself is not something I ever thought we would actually do. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love it. We've always wanted to look into a franchise or something. We'd kind of put it on the shelf until Madeline's dad called us. He's our co-owner and our partner in crime in all of this. It's been fun to work with him, even though he doesn't live here. So what do you want to tell us about, because she knew about Dirty Dough about the same time we did.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, Madeline, thanks for being on the podcast today. You never know what's going to happen when you visit Williston, North Dakota. You end up on season 6 of the Williston Works podcast. But yes, we jumped in, your dad is part of the co-ownership here at Dirty Dough, and what would you like to add?
I'm from Utah. I live in Eagle Mountain with my dad right now, so planning to go to USU in the fall. But I think Dirty Dough is a super unique business. When we first were trying the cookies, we just fell in love with them immediately. But just more of being an employee there, I've loved the positive and fun atmosphere of work. Sometimes you dread going to work, but you don't feel that at Dirty Dough. Just seeing all the people there, they're also happy to be there, and we're excited to have them come in and bring something unique and delicious for everybody to enjoy.
You never know, you could end up running a Dirty Dough franchise.
Exactly.
Talking about the franchise itself, so how did you settle on doing something like Dirty Dough? Obviously, you probably looked at multiple other business ventures and opportunities. How did this become the one that you wanted to pull the trigger, and why in Williston?
Excellent questions. And yes, we have looked at several franchises for a few years. And Dirty Dough was certainly influenced by our friend and business partner, who knows the founder of Dirty Dough well and presented the opportunity to us. Looking at the market across the country, there have been several very successful gourmet cookie franchises in a bit of a cookie wave, if you would. And it just seemed like the right time for this franchise versus the others we'd been considering.
One of the things that we like about this franchise is how, on a corporate level, they're approaching it for the friendliness to franchisees. It is a more simple model. We don't have to have quite as many employees to be successful. That's why we could make it happen here in Williston so soon. We were talking earlier about how most of the time it's towards the end of franchises, they finally make it here. Well, because of how the model is set up, because it is business-minded and franchisee-minded, and they try to make it turnkey and as simple as possible for us, it made it something that we were willing to do. We kind of had to fight with corporate a little bit and tell them Williston would be a good place and that they would work on it, and that they'd pull through, and they sure have. We have been the #1 store more than once on a weekly basis, and we're still in the top 5. So we're the 18th franchise to open. We have over 100 that will open before the end of the year, and then they have over 350 franchises sold across the nation. So we're going to see Dirty Dough showing up quite a few places.
Well, and one comment you brought up, and we see this a lot in economic development, is there is a lot of interest in different type of franchise to come into this market, or investors and entrepreneurs that want to bring franchises into this market. One of the biggest challenges we have is selling the community that there's much more opportunity and sales potential here than what it may look like on a map or what it may look like as Williston, North Dakota. Mm-hmm. You guys explained that you saw the same thing when you were trying to do this Dirty Dough franchise. How did you convey that message that this is really the right place to pull the trigger on? I mean, what did you say to sell them on some of the, I would say some of the detractors that maybe the franchise had seen?
I think first and foremost is helping them understand that the population is not actually an accurate representation of your client base. They've got to understand how many people don't maintain a Williston address but are really here full time. And another thing that helps is how strong our economy is. And this is not a metropolis where there are a lot of different places to go and do something fun. There aren't 100 different ways to use your expendable income. And so things like this have a great chance of doing well here because we're in the middle of nowhere, right? And I grew up in central Montana, same thing. When there's something great to do, it doesn't get old near as quickly as it may if you were in a city where there's a lot of other options, right?
Because of where we live, the draw is strong. We have people drive over from an hour away or 2 hours away just to come get cookies as their primary activity. And then, we're also going to do this and this because we're here. We've had people come all the way from across the state, from Fargo, 6 hours away because they heard we opened and they wanted to come try something new. They didn't have family here. They didn't have other people here. They literally came, stayed the night, enjoyed the cookies, came the next day, grabbed more cookies to take home with them, because that's what it is like where we live. And so we've seen people every single day in the store who have driven for more than an hour to come and participate in something fun and new.
Getting into now, talking a bit with economic development, obviously, I mean, not everything is always rosy. There's some challenges when starting up and getting going and stuff like that. If you're talking to the entrepreneur out there, so you've made the decision, you're pulling the trigger, the franchise is a go, what were some of the challenges that you faced from that point to opening the door and cutting the ribbon?
We were really concerned about those challenges, actually. We had decided to open a store here year ago. It was late spring of 22.
We thought we'd be open last
we
summer.
signed on the franchise about that time. And we really thought we'd be open before school started. As it turns out, we didn't sign a lease on a property until September. Okay, and then we had to wait a few months to get a reputable contractor to come in and do the build out. Okay, and those are probably the two biggest hangups for anybody that needs a brick and mortar business here. It is the location and the builder, right? And we were patient. We found a location that really did work great for us, and we were patient to get the right builder in there. And it took a little longer, but I don't regret being as picky as we were or as patient as we were. In that waiting time, it was hard. A lot of days of wondering, is this actually going to happen? Are we going to have to maybe see if corporate will move our franchise to another location because we just can't find a place in Williston? But we hung on, we kept looking, and we ended up finding a place that wasn't even advertised, actually, just but through connections.
Through community.
You know, and another thing we face a lot too, and I know this is it's more with your employment base, it's more family intensive, but you're finding workforce. Has that been huge challenges that you've seen out there, and how do you tackle that?
For us, that's a little easier than a lot of businesses because we're literally looking for a younger workforce. We want the teenagers to come in. We want those that are here for college and sticking around for a couple of years. And so we've actually had people lined up for months since before we opened. It's been great that way. And we have a couple of people through our community, through our network, we're able to find a couple of other adults that we can trust that are helping us manage, helping us train, and really developing a good thing. I know workforce is tough for a lot of other businesses, where we're geared towards having a young, vibrant atmosphere. We haven't faced that issue as much as other companies.
Is someone like yourself, now they're thinking about pulling the trigger on a franchise or just in a business itself, they want to do it in Williston. If you had to give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
Work hard while you're patient. It's going to take longer than you want it to. You know, it doesn't matter what business you're starting. It's going to take longer than you think it's going to, and it's definitely going to take longer than you want it to, right? So be prepared for that. You know, of course, budget for that, and put the hours in to get it started. We had a phenomenal builder, right? But the last 60 days before we opened doors, we were there between midnight and 3 a.m. every single night for 60 days, and that's great, right? That's I think how anybody starts a business is you just put the work in, but and have a deadline.
And have a deadline.
We had a grand opening and we were going to make it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
For me, it's the dream is there for a reason, and if there's something to do in this life, it's to go for your dreams. So go for the dreams, put the work in to get there, and know that the risk is worth it. No matter what the outcome, the risk is always worth doing that for yourself.
Excellent. Madeline, I'm going to jump to you. I'm going to talk to the young professional again. You're out there, you're talking to people your age. If you had to give them advice about Williston, advice about, you know, because you've been in there, you've now worked in the franchise itself. You know, obviously it's part of the family business as well. But if you had to give advice to the young professionals about this area, what would you say?
I think if you have a positive outlook on everything, then it'll help other people have positive outlooks too. So just trying to find that positivity even when things don't go exactly how they're planned to go.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Any final things you'd like to add to the podcast?
I'm so grateful to this community. They've really shown up and supported us. It's been such a good adventure, and I love that we got to do this here in Williston first.
Well, we're excited to have it here as kind of a first in the community. And what you said is it couldn't be more true about Williston. And what I found is that if, you know, the people that are here and they're committed to the town, you see the town becomes committed to them. And, you know, even though it's, you know, yeah, it's maybe a permanent residence of about 31,000. And like you had mentioned, I mean, there's still a lot of, you know, population that don't call this their home, but they're still here moving around. But you still have that great small town feel of what you're seeing out here. So, well, we're excited to have you guys. I mean, the Dirty Dough franchise is going to be a successful one here for the city of Williston. I can't keep this podcast going any longer. We got to dig into these things because they're smelling pretty good. So let's do it.
This is the reverse with Reese's. You've got a fudge-filled chocolate cookie wrapped in a peanut butter cookie, and it just doesn't topped with peanut butter, chocolate, and Reese's peanut butter cup.
Those are my lunch.
There.
I want to thank you guys once again for taking the time. Dirty Dough,
Shawn, we
Thanks.
appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
wish you many years of success.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Williston Works podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Please like and subscribe for more interviews, and to learn more about Williston, North Dakota, visit cityofwilliston.com. And special thanks to The Range Sports Bar and Simulators for providing the location to record this episode. Visit therangend.com to learn more. We'll see you next time on the Williston Works podcast.